Hey guys, how's it going? This is the first of these sort of opinion-based rants that I'm doing, so just a few disclaimers before I start. First, these are my opinions. I'm not going to be claiming these as fact or as even a general consensus. These are opinions that I personally hold that I want to share for the sake of discussion. Second, the things that I say are not intended to disrespect or minimize one's yo-yo skill or achievements. I respect each and every person who competes, and I think that the way that the competitive yo-yoing landscape has been shaped nowadays is only because of the way the rules are laid out, not as a judge of any one person's moral character. Last, I'm extremely open to discussion, so I will accept any criticism and ask that it be directed towards the comments. However, any foul play or disrespectful comments will not be tolerated. These are just opinions about a toy that we just happen to compete with. It's not that deep. And with that being said, let's get into the video. First, I want to introduce myself. Hello, my name is Ryan Kim, and I am a sponsored competitive yo-yoer. I've been yo-yoing for about 9 years now, and I've been competing for about 7. I recently made it to the semi-final round of the 2024 World Yo-Yo Contest in Cleveland, and have placed decently well in smaller competitions. I am not the most decorated yo-yoer ever, but I've been in the competitive scene long enough to gain some opinions on a type of trick that has become more ubiquitous, especially in the last couple of years. Horizontal yo-yo tricks. They're cool, flashy, dynamic, and risky. Doing horizontal tricks require a mastery of momentum, flow, plane control, and it's a skill set reserved for the highest level of competition. One mistake and it usually leads to yo-yos spinning out. As such, there's a dichotomy that is introduced. Horizontal tricks themselves are a little more constrained, as it is not possible to do tricks that require stopping the yo-yo. The yo-yo must always be moving. However, judges usually see these tricks and click them higher, as doing a trick horizontally obviously is harder than doing tricks vertically. But wait, hold on. Zoom in real quick. Is that horizontal? Actually, what is horizontal? I mean, obviously a yo-yo at 90 degrees is horizontal, but where do we actually consider the tipping point between vertical and horizontal? Well, scientifically, it would be probably anything above 45 degrees, as that's the point where it must be more horizontal than vertical. That's what makes the most logical sense. However, I am here to argue that that's not even close to what I think should be considered horizontal yo-yoing, at least for the purpose of competition. So then, what is it? Well, I think that putting a specific degree number to it is a little bit arbitrary, as judges can't hold a protractor up to the stage and measure a yo-yoer's tilt every time a yo-yo is horizontal. So, let's go back to the characteristics of horizontal that I described earlier. It's a trick style that is constrained by the fact that the trick will be ruined if the yo-yo ever stops moving. If you can do horizontal tricks and just keep the yo-yo still, then surely that can't be that much harder than just a normal vertical trick. Here's an example. I'm taking a normal, pretty common meta-vertical combo and doing it semi-horizontally. Take a note of the difference when I do it at an attempted full 90. As you can see, there is a clear difference between the execution of the two tricks. The first one is around 45 degrees horizontal, and it looks much slower, allows for the stoppage of the yo-yo, and therefore is much easier. However, when the trick is done truly horizontally, the trick is pretty much impossible. It falls off the string very easily, I almost hit my face halfway through, and I have to do the trick much faster to even attempt to keep the yo-yo in plane. It is very easy to tell that when the yo-yo is horizontal, it is much harder to do a trick, which I think is the original purpose of doing a trick horizontally anyways. This is why I think that 45 degrees should not count as horizontal. If you do some experimentation, you'll find that you'll have to throw the yo-yo almost 70 to 80 degrees horizontal to get to the point where the yo-yo starts falling off the string if you do nothing about it. Alright, so what's the point? Why does this matter? Well, there has been an epidemic of sorts recently. As people are trying to click higher and higher, people have been increasing the frequency of horizontal tricks in their freestyles. However, a lot of them are shortcutting this by simply turning some of their already existing vertical tricks into horizontal ones. and loopholing the system by intentionally throwing their yo-yo less than 90. With this, they can do horizontal yo-yo tricks with the safety net of knowing that their tricks will be much easier than if they were doing full 90, while still reaping the benefits of getting more clicks. Now, I'm not saying that doing tricks at 45 is just as easy as doing them vertically, but they, for me, do not warrant extra points because they do not have the added difficulty of plane and momentum control. Now, what would a practical way to judge this be? Again, judges do not have protractors, and they have the added difficulty of doing this on the spot. They only have one real chance to look at it. As well, they have a lower vantage point, so it is not as easy to tell how horizontal a yo-yo is. The way that I've been going about it is just through experience. First, you as a judge should be pretty good at horizontal, or at least know what the threshold is of that generally 70-degree mark by feel and by sight. Second, the throw is the most important part. I find that when you want to achieve true 90-degree horizontal, you usually have to throw the yo-yo generally upward. If you see one throwing downward, you can usually bet that the yo-yo isn't going to be horizontal. Finally, there are times when the yo-yo either tilts out a full 90 midway through a trick, or even the inverse. One needs to keep a keen eye on how the yo-yo changes tilt throughout a trick, and then make a judgment call on how much extra a trick could click, if it seems a trick has crossed the threshold for horizontal. Hopefully this video shed some light into the discussion of horizontal tricks in competition. Again, I have no disrespect for any competitor who doesn't do perfect 90 horizontal. In fact, I'm quite guilty of this as well. Any competitor who has done this, intentionally or not, is just using the rules to their advantage, as no clear judgment call has been made as to what horizontal yo-yo tricks truly are. As well, I'm not the first to call this out. This has been an ongoing discussion in the judging community for well over a couple years now, but my intention with this video is to put a baseline definition for horizontal yo-yo tricks, and to bring this discussion to the general yo-yo community. Feel free to talk about your own opinions in the comments, and if you want to see more content like this, subscribe, as I plan on making more videos about the world of competitive yo-yoing. Okay, bye.